What's up, guys? We're back here, Archeworld. Let's talk about the economy, what's going on with the game and everything, how I've been doing. Well, so first up, I've been doing well, but we are just in the daily grind of doing our houses, and now we're actually even doing some of these braziers. We're attempting to do some data research on these things. So we've picked up 400 of them. We've done around 250 of these braziers so far to see, because I do think that they are profitable regardless of what server you're on. But I definitely need some data on this. So far, the results have been pretty bad. So we've gotten 34 of the 300 Archeum. We've gotten 2 of the 1000 Archeum. And we've done about 200 of these guys so far, give or take. So we've lost around 10,000 Archeum approximately right now. Obviously it's RNG, it's a lot of variance, a lot of just random number generators happening here. So if you hit that 1 million Archeum or that 100,000 Archeum, you obviously come out ahead. How rare that is, no one knows. No one knows the drop rates on these things. But yeah, it's all science, and I do think that they probably are a good thing. You do get a ton of shards. So if the incomplete Archeum shards are very expensive, like we've seen them almost as high as 20 or 22 bslt for 10,000. That makes these guys a lot better to do, because you get you get like 110 from these guys. Look at this. This is a terrible batch. None procced on this land right here. Very, very bad batch. It looks like only 2 on that one over there. So yeah, so a lot of data needs to be collected on these things. Obviously, it's skewed heavily if you get really lucky and you pull off, one of those big jackpot pulls. You're going to be happy for a very, very long time. If you pull 1 million off of these guys, that just means you're going to be profitable for forever, right? And people do pull 1 million on these guys. People do pull 100,000 Archeum on these guys. It does happen. You do see it pop up in game. So it's there. We'll see. It's another form of gambling that they have in game, and yeah, I mean, I do like them because they harvest really quick. The time to literally harvest them is like you click F and it's like a second. Whereas if you do any other crops, it's so tedious and long. It's like 3 or 4 seconds to harvest a tree or a sheep or any other crop, which I can't fathom doing that on all the different lands that we have, right? It's just so much time wasted. And even this is probably, unless you get really lucky, it's probably not going to be worth the time to do, right? If you actually value your time, and you have something else, a job or something that pays better for that time aspect. But data science, here we go. One of the cool things too to note is that the less people that do plant crops and things like that, that makes it more valuable. So we're seeing that on this server, on the American server, and the Asian servers as well. Less and less people are planting crops because now they're playing on like 4 different servers, right? A lot of players are actually playing on North America server 1, server 2, Asia server 1, Asia server 2. They have characters and they have land on all these different servers. Like it just, because you can have 3 XL Games land plots on each server. So you can rent 3 of those lands on each server. You might have minted a land as well or 2 on those servers, and you are, using those guys, because using the land, if you do log in twice a day, it is going to be more profitable than renting it out. So yeah, a lot of people are playing on all 4 servers right now. And with them playing on all 4 servers, what I think we're noticing is that they have less and less time to actually play the game, because they're constantly logging in, logging out on the servers, doing the housing activities, and they don't have the time anymore to do crops and to do harvesting. So we're seeing that specifically the Shadigan ores and the Shadigan crystals are going up in value. So specifically on like the Asian server, you see like the blue crystals, I think, are at like 40 bslt. Oh, we got lucky. We got a proc of 5,000 on that one. So yes, the blue crystals, these guys right here on Asia, are around like 40 bslt, maybe a little bit higher. And then also the purple ones, which on America, they are around 30 bslt. They're creeping up too. Like in the last couple of days, they started to creep up. There's a massive sale, massive buy, up to 50 bslt there, and then up again to 35, 32 today. Also, the purple on the American server saw a massive surge today. This shot all the way up to 500 bslt. So 480 was the highest sale. Yesterday, the highest sale was 400, but that's a crazy increase. And then, even the greens are seeing a slight increase in value. Like you used to be able to pick up greens for like 1.8 bslt, and now just the failure pieces of the greens are about 1.82, and the solid crystals here are 2.1 and higher. We're also seeing the Shadigan ore itself go up. And this is the main reason why I think we see the prices of the crystals go up, is because the cost to make this is going up. Not necessarily more people are buying it, it just the cost of the crops, the cost of the logs, the lumber, the skin, the ore is all going up because there's less and less people that are actually planting and doing farming activities. Again, it goes back to the not having enough time, and it takes them a lot of time to do all those things on all the different servers. So that's good for anyone that is in playing like one server only and really focusing on their one land or two land, because if you maximize your profits on in your land, if you plant down crops and things like that, you put the time and the energy into that land, you can get more value out of it because less people are doing these things. So there's no one best crop, right? So people ask this all the time, like, what's the best crop to actually grow? There is never going to be a best crop to grow. It's always going to change based on your server. It's always going to become supply and demand things. Like, if more people are planting trees, the tree price, the log price is all going to go down. And all the other crops are going to be more valuable because less people are producing them. So they're all used about evenly. When there's a new recipe that does come out for crops, like say there's a boat recipe that comes out and uses a lot more logs and doesn't use the other resources, then of course there might be an imbalance there, and people would have to potentially harvest more logs and trees than other resources. But as of right now, the game is incredibly balanced with kind of like the crafting recipes. Everything is used roughly evenly all around. So there's no one crop that stands out. The one thing that does kind of stand out right now is you have braziers, but you also have sun points, moon points, and star points. And it's, again, supply and demand. You run around, you don't see anyone planting these star points, sun points, or moon points, which means they might actually be worth a good amount of money. And if we go and look into the auction house here and we see star point, we can see what the crystals cost. The fragments are 0.14, and then the actual completed crystal sells for 3.5 approximately. To find out the correct selling point, though, always check the sales history. So just because it's listed for 3.5 doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell for 3.5, even if it is the cheapest out there. So it is constantly selling, it looks like around 3.3, maybe 3.5, because so over here it sold for 4, but only 9 of them sold, and this day only 7 of them sold. So the price was just too high. People didn't want to buy them. This day 54 sold for around 4 bslt, and the last couple days around, so it seems around 4 bslt, but the last couple of days it has gone down to about 3.3, 3.5 bslt. So it seems like the new average here is going to be around 3.5 bslt, that the selling point for these guys. So about correct, right? If you list it for about 3.5, it should sell. And if we look at how much it costs to actually craft these things, so those guys cost 14. We pull up the folio, we press O to bring the folio up, and we look at star points, and we take a look at the brazier, and you notice it cost 100 Archeum. So I do a quick little conversion here. 10,000 Archeum is 60 bslt. 1,000 Archeum is 6 bslt, which then that makes 100 Archeum 0.6 bslt. So always factor that into. You have to know these things. All right, so 0.6 bslt there. And then you had 10 of these guys that were 0.14, so that's 1.4 plus 0.6. That puts us up to 2.0 bslt. And then now we have to look at 20 of the faint rift stones. So right now it's costing us 2 bslt to make, and it's going to take 20 of these guys. So these guys are 0.34. Let's round up to 0.04 for simple math. 0.04 times 20 is 0.08 or 0.8. So that puts us at 2.8 to craft this star point. And if we can sell it for 3.5, we take out the 10% auction house fee, we round up a little bit, so we're going to make it 3.1. It means you're going to make a 0.3 profit on this. That's a pretty good return, I think, for your land. So every time that you harvest, you're making 0.3 bslt. It's going to take 8 hours. And yeah, I think that, I think these guys, since less and less people, once again, are doing them, they're actually quite profitable. And you might be able to find, better value on sun points or better value on moon points. You just got to check the auction house to see what the prices are of these things. So the moon point, or the sun point, sorry, is 5.4 bslt. Let's check and see if it actually sells at that. It sells between 4 and 6. So that's not a good thing, because 4.5. Yeah, so it looks like it sells around 4 bslt generally. And what we learned is they take 10 of these guys, so that means this is not actually going to be profitable right now to buy the fragments and then craft them. Because, yeah, you need 10 of these, that's going to be 3.7 bslt. Then you need that 0.6, which puts you up to 4.3. And then you still need that 20 shadowguns, or 20 faint stones, sorry. So that puts you around 5.1, give or take, to actually craft a sun point. Not profitable. If you're only going to be able to sell for 4.5, maybe 5, after the auction house fees, you are losing money. Let's take a look at moon points, 0.03. So very, very cheap on the fragments. The fragments are almost next to nothing here. And then they sell for approximately 2 bslt, it looks like. So here you might actually have a good thing. So we got 0.8 for the faint stones of rift. We got 0.6 for the archeum. And then we need 10 of these guys. So we're at 1.4. And these guys are going to cost around 0.4. So it's actually going to cost us right around 2 bslt to craft, it looks like. So 0.8, 0.6, and 0.4. And actually, it's 1.8. So 1.8, we need to sell this for over 2 bslt because of the auction house fees. And that's about where they sell right now. So the best one out of those would be the star points as of today, just based on these numbers on the server. So you always got to crunch those numbers and see. But yeah, being able to make a 0.3 bslt on a crop, I think is pretty crazy. I think it's a really good return, right? So just keep crunching those numbers. And again, the more people that do it, the less profit you're going to get. So you really don't want other people to be doing those things. And if you look around the world and you see no one harvesting and planting those guys, you might find a business opportunity that you can go and jump on, right? If everyone is planting star points, moon points, and sun points, most likely you're not going to be able to sell it for a lot of money and profit, and you're either going to have to sell for a loss or you sit on it. And that's something people don't realize, is that you can sit on items like things like the labor potions, right? So labor potions were very cheap in the beginning of the server. They were, 2 bslt. They got down as low as 1.5 bslt at the very bottom, roughly. And now they are currently way up in value, and people are like, whoa, labor's expensive. And it's only 3.8 right now. So it's something like you just sit on the labor potion, you waited a month, and then the labor potion price went double. Anyone that bought all the labor potions at 2 bslt is almost doubling their money in 1 month of waiting, sitting on those items. Just because an item is cheap, right? 1.5 bslt or 1.8 bslt doesn't mean you have to sell it at that price. If you think the item is cheap, right? If you think it's undervalued, you think it's going to go up in value, you can sit on it and wait and then sell it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 months, right? That's part of investing and taking a gamble on that. I didn't sell any of my labor potions at that price. I was actually buying labor potions at like the 1.5 bslt, and now we are, out of labor potions, upgrading our beds to get more labor, and slowly forced to buy some labor off of the auction house. And the reason we need labor is because of our Archeum machines are now almost all upgraded to like the third level, like the rare. So we have all the green ones, and we have quite a few of the rare ones, and those guys take a ton of labor, right? So now the next thing that I'm doing on my lands is I'm actually upgrading the beds, because I didn't need to upgrade the beds, and it was more profitable to upgrade the Archeum machines. But now that I'm running out of labor, and the Archeum machines are starting to cost 100,000 to upgrade to get to the blue level, I'm starting to upgrade the beds to generate that labor, and it's also just more profitable, in my opinion, to upgrade the beds. Also, when labor potion prices go up and labor value goes up, the beds become more valuable. Right now, we're at a current period where Archeum is actually really cheap. Archeum has gone down to about 60 bslt for 10,000. So 62, 63, 64. So very, very cheap, and it stays right around this price. It doesn't really go up much. Yesterday there was a sale at 72 at the highest. The day before, 72 at the highest. But for the most part, it stays in that 62, 63, 64 range, and there's a decent supply on the auction house. So at this price, like, you're better off doing the stars. You're better off doing the blue salt stars and selling your Archeum there, because you have the auction house fee, which is 10%, and then on top of that, you also have the crafting fee that consumes Archeum when you put it into a bundle. So your better option is to just do the blue salt stars at this point. And if people don't realize that, also the other option is to use the Archeum. Like, the Archeum really can't get much lower. This is pretty much the lowest price that the Archeum can get to because of the blue salt stars. Right, on Asia, we did see it get to around like 55 or 54 bslt at one point, but that was a very rare anomaly, right? It doesn't happen often. Most of the time, it's going to stay around that 60, 61, 62 bslt price point, which means this is the time to load up and upgrade your machines and upgrade your character, because as of now, there's really no way that Archeum can actually get cheaper than kind of where it's at, because of those blue salt stars. We have no reason to believe that the blue salt stars will be going away anytime soon. They recently did improve the blue salt stars and made them better for the higher tiers, so it made it so you could sell more of these guys, and like, they adjusted this system, right? And if they were going to get rid of it, or I've said this multiple times, they wouldn't have adjusted the system for the higher tier players. They're using this as the play to earn aspect, and they see that a lot of people really like the play to earn aspect. They're guaranteeing like land profitability, and like, they're okay with that, right? Like, they've held back their company earnings multiple months. They decided to not sell tokens in January or like December of last year because the BSLT price was too low, and they wanted the price to recover. And so they're like, well, we're not trying to make money really off this tokens. We're just going to hold up and let the price recover, and then eventually we'll sell the tokens when the thing recovers. The crypto winter's going on. People are scared. We don't want to crater the price. So like, they're not in it for the short term, right? In the short term, they potentially might not sell their earnings. They potentially might just hold back and like, okay, we're here for the 3 years, the 4 years, the 5 years down the line. Like, they want the consumers to be happy. So then you tell your friends, you YouTube, you Twitch, you TikTok, you do videos, you tell people like, hey, this game's cool. You can play and you can actually earn. Like, you have all these, housings, these activities that you can do. It's a real live metaverse that is what, everyone was hyped about last year. And, it's actually a fun game. Like, it actually is a legit fun game and not one of those just clickers, right? So they want people to help advertise, and by having happy customers, you get more advertisements out of it. This is also why they did Server 2 on Asia. And you saw a lot of partnerships. Right now we have an exit lag partnership, right? So exit lag is a service that reduces ping and allows you to play with better, better ping from a different kind of like location. Sets your IP to a different address, ping reduction, and you have less lag. So they partnered with them, and now they're giving out 30 free days to try out Exit Lag, and then they're giving out labor potions if you buy a subscription. And so for buying a 12-month subscription, which is also discounted as well, you're getting 15 labor potions. You do have to wait 7 days after you purchase this because there is a refund period. So you can use the service and then be like, I'm going to refund. I'm going to do a chargeback. I don't like it. And that's all valid within the 7 days. If you do that, they don't want to just give you free labor potions because then it's like, oh, you can just cheat the system. You can sign up, get the labor potions, quit, and then repeat over and over and over again. So they make you stay there past the refund period of 7 days to get your labor potions, which means in a day or two, we're actually going to see a lot more labor potions appear on the auction house because this will be the first time that people will be able to get their promotional labor potions from Exit Lag and Archeworld, which that means there's going to be a whole lot new labor potions, which will drive the price down. So right now, the price is actually a little bit higher, 3.9, creeping up to that 4, but probably in a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, it'll probably go down to around like 3.5, maybe 3.0 is my guess on this price. And then another thing we should talk about is the price of the bslt token. The token itself is still hovering right around 19 cents. It did have a very short one-day spike up to 23 or 24 cents when the launch of the Asian 2 server kind of did happen. Like I think it was day 2 of that. And then it just jumped right back down slowly but surely to like the 19, 20 cents. And I think it is the selling pressure obviously from Exo Games is here. You got a lot of people that are trying to just cash out and just earn as much as possible, grind, cash out, and think that the game is still gonna fail and not do anything. And to their thought process, it's like the game hasn't really updated in the last couple of months. There hasn't been anything new or exciting. So obviously people are getting bored. People are getting like, oh man, what's going on? Why are they so slow? Why are they lagging? Like, this is the same thing over and over and over again, repetitive, right? People need some new, fresh things. There hasn't been anything new or exciting for about 2 months now since the game launched in America. And, we're all just waiting for the big thing. So, like, those people that are spitting out the FUD of, like, oh, yeah, the game's going to die, the game's on its deathbed, et cetera, right? Like, they're kind of valid right now because there hasn't been any content updates, which means it's like, hey, what are you guys working on? Myself personally, I believe that they are working on the ocean content. We heard from them several months back that, yeah, they're targeting the end of summer for the ocean content, which means in about 2 months right now, September, October is when they expect to release that, is my guess, based on that wording. So it does take time, and they want to have the systems in place for the progression of the characters, right? So everything that they added the dungeons, they added, the sun points, star points, they added the sweeps to the dungeons. Like, these things have done like a horizontal progression. They've slowly increased your character's power, and now they've run out of things that they can do. There is underwear, so a character could have underwear, an undergarment, which is over here. So this is the only other thing that really can be introduced that they could do horizontal progression. It would be underwear, which is kind of like a cape. It's a brand new piece of equipment. You can get that. It can give you stats, and yeah, that can improve your character. Then the other thing that they could do is they could do titles. So there is titles in this game, and let's see, how do we pull this up? So I forget how to pull up the title menu. Oh no! on, right? Let's go over here. I think it's quests. Nope, achievements. Okay, so achievements. Forget the hotkey to open this up, but there's this title, right? And so there's some titles, and they don't have any stats. And so the other thing that they could do for horizontal progression is they could release titles that actually have stats and benefits. So you'd have a very small, minuscule increase in power based on these systems. Titles, underwear, those are about the only things that they could introduce now that is missing from Arc Age, their original game that this is all based on. The next thing that the Ocean is going to bring, in my opinion, is more a direct upgrade in power. The Ocean is going to bring access to Tier 7 weapons and armors. You're still going to have to go through Tier 6 to get these, weapons and armors and then progress them further. But the Ocean should, in theory, somehow make it more easily accessible to have Tier 6 weapons and armors, because the Ocean's going to give out access to Tier 7 and Tier 8, potentially, weapons and armors materials. And if no one has Tier 6 weapons or armors, then there's really no point to having Tier 7 weapons or armor drops, item drops, right, material drops, because no one can use them for the next couple of years. At the current pace of how the upgrades are, I think there's like maybe 25 pieces of gear that is Tier 6 or higher. Like, there's not many people. Like this person, Uston, has everything at Tier 6, but I don't believe he has anything maxed out. He's almost got his staff maxed out. So he's close. He's very close. He's like 2 million Archeum away from getting his staff maxed out, which could potentially go to upgrade to Tier 7 once that recipe unlocks. So he is very, very close. But still 2 million Archeum away. That's a long way, right? And he's the only person in the game that is even, like, quote-unquote close. And being close is 2 million Archeum, which is a long way to go. Next person up here is Spell, which he has 1 or 2 Tier 6 items. Yeah, it looks like 2 Tier 6 items, weapons right there. And so, like, they have a long way to go to get Tier 7 weapons or armors. So what I think is going to happen is that the Ocean is going to release content that's going to give out a lot of Shadigan crystals, whether they're purple or blue or yellow. But I think the Ocean content is going to give out access to a lot of Shadigans, because Shadigans are the one item that is holding back the progression of all these characters. Obviously, Archeum is also a very big progression block, but there is plenty of Archeum in the world, and they can introduce more Archeum in the naval or the Aqua houses. They can also introduce Archeum as drops, and they can easily give out more Archeum for those conquests. But the big thing is the Shadigan. So, like spending 400 or 500 bslt for a purple Shadigan crystal is very painful and expensive. And so I think they are going to be dropping these guys as drops. I hope they're going to be dropped as drops. The yellow ones as well, potentially. So a lot of people are upset about this, right? They were like, oh, it's going to devalue all the gear. Well, yes, over time your gear will get devalued, and it's just a natural progression of the game. As, if the game lives for 5 years, by that time there's going to be Tier 7 or there's going to be Tier 8, Tier 9, Tier 10 gears. Like, we're only at Tier 4 and Tier 5 right now. Realistically, there's not many people, maybe 10 different people that have Tier 6 weapons at all, right? So the progression of the game, it has to go up. Like, they have to make it a little bit easier. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. They're not going to just, give everyone Tier 6 weapons or armors, right? But they have to give easier access to these things, or they have to increase the drop rates of the crystals. We start to see this a little bit too with the daily Arc Pass. So the Arc Pass has progressively gotten better and better every single month. So right now, this current Arc Pass, we're getting out 3 of the Shadigan blue crystals. we're getting a bunch of the sun points, moon points, and star points, and we're getting a bunch of labor points. Like, if we go back and look at the May Arc Pass, the May Arc Pass had one blue Shadigan crystal, right? And if you look back at the very, very first Arc Pass, it only had like green Shadigan crystals and maybe one blue crystal, right? So over time, we are slowly getting more and more progression via Arc Pass and more, activities. Like, it's natural progress of the game is to gear up your players slowly but surely, because as the new content comes out, they're going to be gated, right? It's going to be ancestral level 20 monsters or ancestral level 30 monsters. Like, and if your gear score and your combat level is only 12,000 or 13,000, you're not going to be able to fight these guys. So they have to increase the progression level a little bit so that these players can get up and fight the new content. Like right now, even a lot of players can't do dungeon content because it's too difficult for them to do. So you have that. There's also Kadum. Kadum doesn't run because there's not that many people that are over 15,000 gear score, and then also the rewards are not that great. So over time, more and more people will get over that 15,000 gear score. They will access Kadum, and they do need to introduce and improve Kadum's rewards so that more people are like, yeah, it's worth my time to do. That's something that I have to balance and realize, like, hey, these need to be worth your time. That's why Skyfin is not very good. It's not worth your time. You lose resources when you die, and you don't actually get enough honor tokens for winning or even just playing the game. Like, you need to have improved rewards, and they did announce that they are working on that. They are thinking of how to improve Skyfin and Kadum dungeons. When they improved the dungeons, they didn't really do that good of a job of improving the dungeons. But it's a work in progress, right? So they don't want to just over improve. They don't want to make things super easy to get. Like, they want it to be a long grind. They want it to take years upon years to progress your character, because they're planning Archeworld to be around for 5 years, 10 years, the long haul. They're not thinking that, oh yeah, we're going to shut the game down in 6 months. Like, that's not their thought process. They had the original game, Arcage, and it's still running 10 years from the launch date, and it's like ghost towns, right? There's literally like no one on. There's no one in the housing zones. You can barely fill a raid, 50 people. It's a crazy thing, but the game is still running because the company is still like, yeah, we're gonna keep pushing out the content. We're gonna keep delivering on our promise. We're not gonna shut the game down. Like, they're committed to their games, and as long as they are able to maintain the servers and keep them up and running, they keep their games going. They don't shut them down lightly, right? So we have a long way to look forward. Like I said, 5 years. That's my plan. I plan on playing Archeworld for like 5 years. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, there are probably breaks in between. But yeah, I expect to be playing this game for approximately 5 years. I'm hoping to play Ashes of Creation when it comes out. But again, that's in an alpha right now, and so we have no idea when that's going to come out. When that game comes out, I will play that game. I'll test it out, try it, give it a good shot, and then possibly just come back to Archeworld, because I know that this game works. This game is fun. This game, is a good game at the fundamental level. It's always going to be here, right? Like, my houses, my land, my character, my progression that I have, it's always going to be here. And I enjoy the world of Archeworld or Arcage, and yeah, I'm excited to see what they can do. And of course, when Arcage 2 comes out, I will give that a shot. We'll try that out. Hopefully it is a good game and takes me away from Archeworld. But I personally really, really love Archeworld. I like what they're trying to do with this. I think the monetization system is great. I am a huge believer of this system. I think this is an incredibly fair way to make an MMORPG where the business makes money, the players can make money, and you can also have a very good and fun, like, balanced game too, right? Like, people do talk about pay to win, and yes, you can buy kind of anything, but all that stuff comes from other players. So is it really pay to win, or is it
pay to farm for me because I'm too lazy, or I didn't have good enough luck, or just have terrible luck, and you got this great drop, right? Like, the game company didn't sell the drop. The game company gives you the game, and everyone has the even playing field. And the person that dominated the server in the beginning, they spent $50,000 or $100,000 or a crazy amount of money to dominate the server, to get the first core, the first tier 4 weapon, the first tier 5 weapon. They spent all this money to get the first, and yeah, it was all there. It was just who got the lucky jackpot, who won the dice roll, who opened the box and got the loot that everyone wanted, right? And then it went to the highest bidder because it's supply and demand, it's economics. It's like this guy was willing to spend $5,000 or $2,000 or $3,000. He's the highest bidder, he gets the item, and that's how it should be, which allows players to generate a lot of money. And we're also going to see that, I think, and hope and pray with the ocean. The first drops in the ocean, if they are usable and it's something that, like, hey, it's cool, which I think that they're going to have the aqua land, the land NFTs will be probably a drop in the ocean, and people will want to have, maybe even need to have, the aqua marina land to make boats and upgrade those progressions on the boats, the cannons, the sails, the rudders. Like, that stuff is very, very important, and so they have to get that gameplay loop correct, because they want to make it so it's valuable and people want to progress their character, they want to get stronger. They have to make it so that you want to have a boat, that, like, okay, I need a boat. Like, they have to think of it like that. Like, okay, how can we make it so the characters need a boat? So the boss monsters obviously have to be, like, resistant to physical attacks and basic combat, right? And so they need to be taking massive damage from cannons and weapons from the boats. And so in that regard, everything needs to be very, very carefully balanced. Because if you don't need a boat, like, if you can just run up to the Kraken and just kill it with all your 50 million God's whips, everyone just throwing God's whips on it, or throwing just endless arrows nonstop, it's like, why do you need a boat? What's the purpose of a boat? So they have to make it where these monsters, these big bosses, have to take more damage, and significant more damage, from boats, and it's kind of almost required to have boats and cannons to kill these monsters, right? Obviously, people want the boats too, just for fun aspects, like having a boat and sailing around in the real physics time engine and ocean is just a lot of fun. But you do want to have some actual value and gameplay necessity on these boats. And then another aspect is, like, okay, what about trade packs? How are we going to introduce trade content where you're transporting goods from one place to another? Like, how do we do this? So there's a lot of factors with the ocean and the naval, and I think what people don't realize is this company, Exo Games, they like to kind of go dark for a long period of time, and then when they do release an update, it's like a massive update. Like, they drop a ton of stuff. So I think that's what we're going to see when the ocean comes out. I think we're going to see this massive patch notes of 30 pages of different changes and updates and news, and then people are going to be like, whoa. And right now we see, like, one line, like, fixed a house, or changed a recipe, or changed the text, right? We see one line patch notes and nothing is done, because that's kind of like how they've done it for the last 10 years, is they go very, very light, they do hardly anything, and then they have this big, massive update once every 6 months or a year, and they use that as a promotional tool as well. So when they do drop these massive updates, then they kind of spend some marketing budget, and then just they advertise and they promote, be like, hey, look what's changed. This is, ArcH 2.0, the big update. We have all these new features and new cool things. Like, come back and check it out. And I think they're going to do the same kind of thing here. Like, we've seen it already too with Server 2 in Asia. When they released the server, it was this big ordeal. They had a lot of promotions and advertisements. They promoted the land minting. They promoted the server launch. They have contests and events going on. And it's just like a big party, right? So you're going to see that kind of same thing, I think, with the ocean update. And then after that, the next big update will be like Aurora or the castles, the sieges, and so forth. And again, we'll probably have to wait about a year at this current pace for those things to update, which, I think will be fine. The ocean will give us a lot of stuff because they're not also going to drop every single thing in the ocean. They'll have, the ocean update, and then slowly but surely introduce probably new raid bosses in the ocean every couple of months, or mini games and things like that. Like, they talked about mini games also for BSLT, and we haven't even seen them. It's been like 2 weeks now, and we've heard nothing else about the mini games for BSLT. They announced an airdrop, and then it just radio silence. It's like, well, what's going on? Like, this is weird. Like, why did you announce an airdrop that had already happened? You already took the snapshot, and you give us no news about these mini games and updates on what's happening. Like, it's kind of crazy, right? So Exo Games is very, very interesting. Anyone that has now been around and seen Archeworld, you kind of realize this is their MMO. Like, this is their MO. This is how they operate. They don't really give us much information to go off. I honestly was really, really shocked when they gave us a lot of great information in the interview I did. If you haven't seen that interview, check out that video that I did with, I think it was Darren Lee. Great, great information there. I honestly thought he was just going to be like, we can't tell you this. We can't tell you this. We can't tell you this. Like, literally nothing. I thought we're going to get, like, no information. But, so I have reached out, tried to get a second interview, no response, because, again, radio silence is kind of what they do. But, yeah, like, yeah, it's very interesting. I wish they would do more communication. I wish they would do more announcements for us. AMAs be accessible, talk to the community members, share information so we could share it to other players. Because, yeah, you have a lot of helpful people that love this game, love the world, and want it to be a very successful project, right? That's one of the cool things here. Everyone here is kind of hoping and praying that this project becomes, the one MMORPG in the crypto space. And it's kind of weird too, because this game is not really like a crypto game. Like, everything is centralized. Exo Games controls the token price. There's no graph. There's no chart on this thing. There's no buy volume, sell volumes, etc. Like, it's a weird thing. It's more of a standard MMORPG with just like a premium currency that people can buy and sell. Is more accurate rather than saying this is a crypto, game. Because all the other crypto games, none of them act like this. None of them are designed like this, how the tokenomics works in this game, and how like partnerships and things and everything work. It's just very different, and it's kind of almost like a buzzword, right? Like, hey, we have a crypto game, so that like they're attracting the crypto users to the game, and yeah, they're also still going to attract some of the MMORPG players, especially with the naval update, because they're going to be like, well, yeah, naval was really cool. Let's go take a look and let's see. Like, it's very interesting, right? Anyway, this has been a long rant. I will talk to you guys later, and thank you for watching and listening if you have been this far. Much appreciated. I will talk to you guys later. I'm trying to update more videos and content in the future. Just been kind of doing the same old thing, so no updates, nothing to really talk about, nothing really exciting here in the world of Archeworld. Hopefully we get that big news. Once we get some big news, all over it, guys. Very, very hyped.